politics of fear and hate are wrong. We love you and politics of compassion
But America,
and love are right.
we are not going back.
We've just covered so much ground here, but the difference between how economic policy affects women here as opposed to men.
Yes, I do wish that more candidates would specifically address issues that women face. Like I said, we are a large portion of the population here, and if more women could have their needs addressed, I didn't even bring up maternal care in the state of Alabama. 63% of the deaths that occurred in women during childbirth were preventable. Why are we not talking about the fact that Alabama refuses to expand Medicaid? Why are we not talking, which Dr. Boyd has?
Yes.
He is very adamant about the hospitals. In the city I live in, that hospital, you cannot have a child. You have to drive 40 minutes to a hospital to have a child. So when I say 63%, of course that disproportionately affects women of color because more of their communities do not have hospitals, even just for emergency care. So I do wish that more candidates, and that's one of the reasons why I do strongly support Dr. Boyd, because he does speak on these specific issues that affect Alabama citizens.
He sure does.
Yes.
Well, I think if we're trying to understand the other side, I've got just a ton of MAGA friends, and they'll say,
I do not.
well, I
have people I know
yeah,
that are MAGA. I cut off 99% of my relationships.
Well, I don't know how long that's been, but let me give you some insight on what they're thinking. I just don't think they understand because, even if they're lower middle class, they're the beneficiary of white privilege.
Absolutely.
So they don't understand. So when, abortion was returned to the states, right? But it's no longer a federal law that it was legal. Like my MAGA friends would be like, oh, well, they can just jump on a plane or take a bus to one of these other states where it is legal.
Who can afford that?
They just don't understand it.
Again, women do not make the same pay as men, but yet we're supposed to be able to just hop on a plane and fly to another state to have our health care taken care of. That's asinine.
Well, even I think
Why should we have to do that? We live in the state of Alabama. Our rights to health care should be here. How do they rationalize that?
I don't know, but it's even like driving the 40 minutes or 40 miles.
Right.
It's like some of these people don't have cars.
Right.
So they don't even understand what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck or, just not have the expendable income to buy a plane ticket.
And don't have insurance.
Yeah, yes.
Just for regular health care, but yet they're supposed to be able to afford to fly out of the state and everything. That's what I mean when I say people, they live in their bubbles. They're very white, privileged bubbles, and they have no idea what life is like for people outside of that community. No, people cannot afford to get on a plane and fly to another state, and they shouldn't have to.
Yeah, they don't understand, a child going to school on an empty stomach. It's just they don't understand these. They don't understand why people are outraged about documentaries like the Alabama Solution, and just having so many people on the show and, being somebody who has been the beneficiary of white privilege my whole life. Mm-hmm. I can remember, I've talked about it on this show quite a bit, but how I used to relish it. I just knew that when I got in trouble, I wasn't going to jail.
At least I'm not black.
Yeah, I'm going to get out of it some way. I'm going to get a slap on the wrist.
Yes.
Or
the difference between you and other white men or the other white people is you acknowledge that you have that privilege. People deny to their grave that they have white privilege. And I'm like, if you're driving down the road, you don't fear getting pulled over, that you might lose your life. You don't fear that if you were to get arrested for something, that you would be talked into a plea bargain by a corrupt prosecutor when you probably could have beat it if you went to trial. But you're going to get talked into this plea bargain, and you're going to end up in prison and get way more harsher of a sentence. Or you would get way less harsh of a sentence than a person of color would. They're ignorant to all these truths. So yeah, they love their white privilege, but they deny they have it.
Well, I loved it. I knew I had it. I know I have it. I recognize it. Today it makes me feel really bad about myself.
It's not right.
Yeah.
It's not fair. We're not a supreme being.
But I think that maybe explains what is or seems unexplainable in terms of like the women for Trump, the Latinos for Trump, the Black Americans for Trump. It's like, my dad was raised poor, and so when he got into a position, like his whole goal in life was to not be poor, to be a person of means.
Yes.
I feel like he felt like he was less than, and money made him feel important, and it gave him access to all these other people and who were blessed with white privilege. And so he started looking down on where he came from. And so that's what I kind of feel like if you're a gay man, a Southern gay man, and you've been ostracized and just made to feel like you're this pariah, MAGA. I mean, I went to a Auburn tailgate once with all these gay MAGAs. One of my friends, what is it? It's like her cousin is gay and his husband was there, and they brought some of their friends. They were all ultra conservative MAGA people, and I was listening to them talk, and I was like, oh my God, like I just couldn't comprehend it.
I can't. I cannot understand how they reconcile it. I really cannot.
Well, I just feel like so if you're Latino, if you're brown or black, or gay or lesbian or trans, because there are trans people that are MAGA. I mean, I'm sure there are. I don't know anybody personally, but I'm sure there are. I mean, there's MAGAs everywhere.
My friend is a Christian, but definitely not MAGA.
Who's trans?
Yes, definitely not MAGA. So I don't know any specifically.
Well, let me just say this. I'm assuming there's a trans MAGA out there somewhere. And the only way I can reconcile it is that they want to feel a part of something.
Well, most people, I would dare to say the majority of people, have a herd mentality. Human beings are relational creatures.
Yes.
And so we need connection. Not all of us, but most people need to be part of the in-group. It makes them feel validated. It gives them a sense of identity. That's a large reason why so many people are part of the church and are part of MAGA. It becomes part of their identity, and that's why they find it so hard to leave. They attach it. And most people, I dare to say, are not strong enough to go against the grain, to step out and away from these groups that they've associated with. So I guess those people want to be part of the group. I don't know. I'm anti-group.
Well, yeah, so I've done a lot of research on this because, it's important in sales to understand like human behavior and, people want to be a part of a tribe and, where all that comes from and all that stuff. So it's interesting, but it's also disturbing because I'm looking at Trump demean a woman, like call her Piggy. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, so the way my mind works is I'll see something like that and I'll go, oh, that's it. He's going to lose. Well, since the theme of this show is, white Southern women. And the white Southern women, that's it. He just lost them there. A bunch of them are going to turn against him.
These same Southern white women ignore that shit in their houses.
Damn, that's a good point. That's strong. Yeah.
It's the truth. They ignore.
It's conditioned.
Yes. Like I said earlier, they have been programmed to be second, to submit to authority. And they ignore the awful behavior of men every day. They ignore their husband not helping them in the house. They ignore the abuse, the verbal abuse. So that's exactly what they're primed for, to accept it. Just accept it.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. It's what men do. That's his locker room talk, you know? When he was talking about grabbing, I just grab him by the pussy, you know? It's just what? How are you okay with that? Well, because that's just boys being boys.
But where we are now is so much different than where we were during the first term. I mean, it's like they're not trying to hide anything anymore.
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
You know, you can bring up so many references. You know, Trump said he didn't know anything about Project 2025. Well, he's enacted a bunch of it. He knows he's all for it now. He comes out and says, this is our game plan.
Oh, he's very transparent now.
I agree when they say that. I mean, he is incredibly transparent. It baffles me that the transparency
is not appalling to people, right? Because that's how cults work. Because once you're indoctrinated into a cult, you will do mental gymnastics to make it make sense in your brain. It's how they believe anyway. I mean, their ability, I did it, I know, the ability to ignore inconsistencies, the ability to ignore contradicting facts, the ability to explain away someone's bad behavior. You know, I can't remember which pastor it was that said Donald Trump, when the supposed or the alleged attempt on his life, when he was grazed in the ear, he said something about he was saved by God so he could continue on his journey or whatever. This is those type of mental gymnastics that people in cults do to make it make sense. So yeah, they find ways to ignore his awful behavior, his racist remarks. I had a friend before I cut her off who told me, I don't see how Donald Trump is racist. What? They have this ability to explain it away or to ignore it or to make it make sense in their world, in their mind.
And if you have, with the internet on your phone, there's no excuse. You can just ask Google, give me some examples of how Donald Trump has been racist in his life.
That would require you to actually search for information. Especially Christian, white, Southern Christian women. You are taught in the church, be in the world, but don't be of the world. They spend their time listening to K-Love, watching Fox News, in church, conversating with other like-minded people. They're not searching out truth. They're doing everything in their power to not see the truth. So whereas if I see an article or if I see a headline, I'm immediately going to research to see if that's factual. Like I said, my degree's in science, and so that's research articles. That's what we do. And so I don't take anything at face value, whereas they do. They just, a headline like from 1819 News or AL.com, this poll says this, they just take it at face value. No research required. Yeah,
and you can run. They're constantly posting memes on my stuff, and I'll run that through. Well, not all of them. Some of them you can just tell it's just complete nonsense. But some of them I'm like, well, let me go back and research that, and it's like totally false. There's no. They'll bring up stuff about I can't remember all the stuff, but Adam Schiff he's a murderer. He killed some people in a hotel once. And I looked that up. It took me bold, all caps, no evidence.
The researching is not something they're going to do. And they see Facebook, which is the cesspool of social media.
It is.
They see memes as actual news sources. It's actual true news. And in Alabama, our education is not the best. And what is it nationally, like a 6th grade reading level? And the thing about it is, when they encounter someone that they perceive as smarter than them or more intelligent, their brain literally goes into fight or flight mode. They go into attack mode. So when you're trying to offer a counterpoint or a true, contradicting statement to something they've said, they're not hearing you because your mere presence intimidates them. It mirrors back to them where they fall short. So that's why they go 10 toes deep and they're attacking you, and they start attacking your nose ring. They love that. They're attacking your character, and they're attacking anything because they physically feel attacked just by their perception that someone is smarter than them. So that's why they're not willing to learn or listen to anything that we have to say.
And they're so sensitive. Like, they'll call me, they'll like type out a paragraph that's very derogatory, and then I'll use something like magatard or magamoron or maggot, and they'll say, "Oh, that's all y'all do is just start slinging profanity or demeaning people, or you just resort to name calling. That's all y'all can do."
They're very good at projection.
And I'm like, son of a bitch, I didn't even know you existed until you commented on my page.
Yeah.
And then in your comment, you called me like 5 bad words.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very good at, I think they've learned that from Donald Trump. His ability to counter the projection and deflect back onto you rather than taking any sort of accountability, or just, like I said, they're in attack mode. It's attack, attack, attack. Everything's aggressive. And I had a conversation yesterday, and I was talking with someone who is a conservative. That's how they identify. Not as MAGA, not as Republican. He said, I'm more conservative. And he said, I don't like all the things that Trump has done. He said, but it comes from both sides. That is an absolute lie. I don't see anyone on the left, and I'm not a label person. I'm a progressive left-leaning person. I don't fall into any boxes. But I do not see the support and encouragement of violence that on the left that comes from the right. I just do not. Now, are there people on the left that share misinformation? Yes. We're talking about human beings. But when people say that it's the same, and I only hear that from people on the right or conservatives, they'll say it's on both sides. It's both sides. No, it's not. It just is not. I don't recall anybody on the left calling for Joe Biden's head. You know what I mean? Or to hang the vice president, Kamala. I don't recall anybody threatening to shoot the speaker from the left, threatening to shoot the speaker of the House in the head. I mean, it's nowhere near.
It's nowhere near
the same. That is just them trying to justify their support of this aggressive, violent, insane place we've gotten to, because it is not the same.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, we would love for you to connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram and TikTok at Raised Red Living Blue. Okay, back to the episode.
Well, I want to kind of plant this seed, and when we're kind of going through some closing statements, like I'd like to know where you think this is going. Like, what so I don't want to hear it now, but I want you to maybe think about and just share, like, what keeps you up at night thinking about, like, how bad do you think this is going to get? So hold that thought.
Okay.
Let's get back on these Southern white women, these Southern Alabama white women. Do you think that they're aware of this social punishment? You mentioned that, if they were to share an opinion that wasn't conservative, if they were in their household, this evening and made a comment at the dinner table about, the tactics of ICE being too extreme, they would probably feel some repercussions from the head of the household.
Absolutely.
The man. The man with the penis. The power staff. Do you think that they're are they aware of that subconsciously or consciously?
I would say yes. They know these men. They know what they're allowed to do and who they're allowed to show up as. They know what would cause strife in their home. Do I think they ever sit around and think, if I was different than him politically, then he wouldn't love me? No, I don't, because this is so normal to them. Like this just is life to them. And like I said, so many of these women ignore it altogether. Mm-hmm. I know Southern white women that if I was to have a conversation with them about politics, they look at me like I just spoke in Japanese. They're so far removed because they live in this privileged world, and they think these issues don't affect them. They pay no attention. So no, I don't think they're sitting around thinking, if I didn't vote like him, he'd be mad. I think that they have just internalized that is their role to the point to where it's subconscious now. No, they're not thinking about it.
And it seems like they don't really think about it or much less act on it until it impacts their bubble.
It's got to be in their house. It's got to be something that directly affects them before they wake up.
Yeah, so their son or daughter's got to come to them and go, "Hey, I'm gay."
Yes.
Or they've got to experience gun violence. Mm-hmm. Their kids' school gets shot up, and then they're like on the picket line or the protest line, going, we need more responsible gun laws.
Mm-hmm. It is a very sad thing that a majority who are Republican act as if they're invincible, and that I'll keep going back to it, this perceived idea of protection, and that their world is perfect, and they lack empathy and the ability to imagine what life is like outside of their bubble. I hear this comment a lot in regards to me losing my daughter, and it's I can't imagine. And I always want to respond with, that's the problem. That's why we are where we are, is because I know that the idea of child loss is something that people don't want to let their minds go there. I've experienced it, and I don't like to let my mind go there.
Yeah.
But it is in that imagining of another person's existence and situation that we find empathy, and we change the things that we're doing in our daily life, like voting, that impact their life in a better way. We have to be able to imagine what their existence is like and how difficult it is because of the shit they vote for. You know what I mean? It's just like, when people say, I can't imagine, I need you to imagine. I need you to understand what it's like to be a person of color in this country, especially in this state. Imagine what it's like as an immigrant right now. But they've lost this ability to imagine and to empathize with people. And one of the things that I've heard them say is, well, they shouldn't talking about the immigrants, they shouldn't put their children in this position. Bitch, I would pick this earth up for my child. Do you hear me? If I needed to swim across an ocean to provide a better life for my child so that they had food every day and so that they could live in a society where there weren't gunmen trying to hunt them down, I would do that, and so would you. But because you refuse to imagine what life must be like for someone in one of these countries, well, I wouldn't do that. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. So I need more people to imagine.
It seems, I don't know if there's some irony here or not, but so these black women that you work with, mm-hmm. and they say, well, we've been going through this for decades, mm-hmm. Many, many decades. They know, they're conditioned to know how to act, what to do.
Protect themselves.
So it's like these white Southern women within their own households, they understand that. So
Yes.
they're kind of operating on a little minuscule level compared to what somebody of color
Absolutely.
is doing, or somebody who's gay or trans.
Yes, both groups are doing the same thing. The difference is these women are supporting the system that causes these problems for all the women. So they're self-protecting in their home, and these women are socially protecting, I guess you could say. But these women, these white Republican women, have the power to change it for all the women, and they refuse to do it.
Well, one of those powerful things, one of my favorite things that Will Boyd said when he was on this podcast was that Alabama's a blue state.
Absolutely.
And I was like, what? I mean, I just latched onto it. I loved it from the minute it touched my ears.
it does have a beautiful ring to it.
It really does. But that's essentially what you're saying. I mean, if more people, no matter what color you are, background you are, if you started voting for your own interests, not against them,
yes.
it would be a blue state.
1,000,000%.
I want to talk about empathy for a minute.
Okay.
You brought this up, and this is one of the things, I mean, there's so much of it I have trouble wrapping my mind around, but when did Christians give up on empathy? Where did this war on empathy, where is this coming from? I don't understand it.
It's been something that's hard for me to wrap my mind around because, like I said, when I was in the church, that's something that's always propelled me. I don't know if you know anything about personality types, but I'm an INFJ, and my need, I feel like I have a social justice warrior that lives inside of me. Like I'm always rooting for the underdog, and I'm always wanting harmony, and I'm always wanting better for all people. And so when I was a part of the church, I thought that's what they were about too.
Yeah.
But I slowly started to realize, and especially in the atmosphere that we have in this country now, that it's a fraud. That they're not really subscribing to that. It's more about being in that in group. And it's more about belonging, and it's more about their identity and this social safety net in that community than it is about really having empathy for people and doing what's right by people. And then you bring Donald Trump into the mix, and when you get in a cult, you're going to do whatever the hell the authoritarian leader tells you to do. And as I said, they've been primed for that since the beginning.
Yeah.
So you look at it, it's multifaceted. So for Southern white women, they're primed in the social construct of be subservient, submit your will to the man. Then you add in the church. They're primed to submit to authority there. They are primed to act just like they're acting under Donald Trump. This should be no surprise. They've been set up for this the entire time, their whole life.
I mean, who is Jesus if he's not empathetic? I mean, it's like,
I do not know how they rationalize being a follower of Christ and being a Donald Trump supporter, other than to say that when you've been programmed to submit to authority, even if that authority figure goes against everything you've ever known and been taught, you're going to comply because you've been taught to submit. And they've been taught to submit to even people like Donald Trump, as sad as that is. Submitting is what they do. They've been doing it their whole life.
Have you heard a Southern white woman defend these politicians that are governing against their own interests? Like, what do they say when they defend somebody like Tubbs or Trump? Or, I mean, do you hear them defending like people like is it Mike Wall, who's the head of the GOP here?
To be completely honest with you, because I removed the majority of the people that I know that are MAGA, I don't hear what they're talking about or what their support is.
That must be nice. What is that like?
And my ability to be in solitude and live my life in isolation, it's a gift. A lot of people don't have it because they are, very groupthink, herd, tribal. I'm not.
Yeah.
I like being alone. I need time for my own brain to do its thing. And so my cutoff game is strong as fuck. I got a friend, she's like, how do you do that? And I'm just like, because I don't need other people.
Like your worth isn't derived from them.
No,
Yeah.
I do it. I'm my own comedian. I'm my own therapist. I'm my own entertainment. I mean, I'm so serious. Like, it's just me, and when my husband's not at work, we grooving together. But so I'm not going to allow someone in my life who is toxic, who is a racist, who supports a pedophile, who supports a president like Donald Trump. I just cannot. Now, I've got a couple friends who I would say, I know one of them supports Trump based on his economic policy.
Right.
Despite the fact that our economy is shit. I'm just going to throw that out there. But they are not people that I talk politics with, and I think it's to maintain the relationship, because if we did, and we don't talk to each other very often, because I just can't let it be I can't ignore it. I can't act like this isn't our world right now. So I'm going to bring it up. And then things that might get tense, but for the most part, I don't know what white Southern women are, saying about these politicians. I did see a couple of Facebook comments. I try to refrain from going on there, because back in November of 24, I did block and remove 95% of Facebook friends because they were MAGA.
Well, I know if I get a friend request, the first thing I do is I scroll through their content looking for MAGA stuff.
Because, the thing about it is, for me, I'm not going to sit here and try to argue with you. I'm not going to try to teach you. It's not my job to educate you. Now, if you want to sit down like we're doing right now and have a civil conversation where you really want to know the truth and learn something, all about it. But like I said earlier, they go into this attack mode. I've gone through too many difficult things in life to subject myself to that. So I just don't. But I did see a couple comments where a lady was like, Tommy Tuberville's going to make a great governor. He'll make Alabama great again. And so the way I handle that is I go on TikTok and I rage.
Yeah. Well, that's what, we were talking about that before we hit record, but that's how this podcast started. That's how your TikTok channel started. It is a way for us to
Vent.
Yes.
It is.
Get it out.
Overwhelming. And
because you can't talk to somebody MAGA about it. You're not going to change their mind.
No. And I don't have anyone local. I did find one person, one street over, who has gone to a protest with me. I found her on TikTok. But as far as, just doing what we're doing right now, no, that's just not something that's afforded to me where I live. And God, I would go insane. And my poor husband, he took it like a damn champ for the longest time before I got on TikTok. And he just would listen and listen and listen and listen. And so I think he was probably thankful that I found another outlet.
Yeah, I bet he was. I bet he supports it wholeheartedly. And I bet it makes, you obviously a happier person, less stressed person, just to kind of get that poison out.
Yes. It builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And I can only, pour so much on him. You can't just bombard a person all the time. But we need, like I said earlier, we're relational creatures. So whereas I'm an introvert and I like my solitude and I like to be at home alone, I still like to have community that's like-minded, other than just my husband, just to bounce ideas off of, just support. So, yeah, it's been good.
we got a couple more questions for you.
Sure, I bet you do.
I am curious, though, to hear your thoughts on why women just in general are unable to see through this Epstein cover-up. You know, why is it not like common sense? Like they want to, it seems like they're always want to talk about like, it's just common sense. But why is it not common sense that if somebody is innocent of something, they just go, poof. You know, like if I'm trying to prove my innocence, I would not be engaged in a cover-up.
Again, it goes back to that, their ability to rationalize irrational things. I mean, to me, to you, it would seem if I'm innocent, why would I hold on to anything? But they will look for any and every reason to justify the files not being released.
I feel like women, though, like you were making this comment earlier, like you would swim an ocean for your kids. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like if anybody's going to be empathetic to children, it's women. It's the creators of this life, right?
Cults are powerful.
I mean, it's scary how powerful it is.
But it is that the cult mindset. You add in the internalized misogyny, where men are the authority, men are right, men are the power. We're submissive. You know, we just do what we're told. We're not going to buck the system. All those things play a part. It's not just a single reason that they would be able to ignore the fact that our president has done everything in his power, down to almost starting wars, to prevent these files from coming out. So, you know, he was preventing it, doing all this bullshit to keep them from coming out. And then all of a sudden, he decided, well, yeah, I've been wanting them released. So then they try to say, well, he said he wants them released. It's almost like they forgot all the months and all the behaviors and actions he did to keep them from coming out.
Well, it baffles me how many of them feel like that they're out. They're like, what?
1% of them?
Yeah, they're like, well, I hear people, I see them online, they do it on my page, you know, all day, every day, talking about, like, I don't see you talking about those Epstein files anymore since Trump released them all. And I'm like, what freaking rock are you under?
So they've released, like, I think 1% of it,
yes.
Very small percentage of it. But I think that goes back to when Pam Bondi, when she came out in July and said, we've done a thorough investigation and there's nothing else to release. So I think they still cling to that, like there's legitimately nothing there, in spite of the fact that he's done everything in his power to hide them and prevent them from coming out.
Well, you just brought up something that I would love to get your opinion on. I want to get your opinion on two women. I want to get your opinion on Pam Bondi, and I want to get your opinion on Caroline Leavitt. But let's talk about Pam for a second. So, to me, you brought up a great example of just how batshit nuts this community is. But I mean, Pam Bondi said there were no files. Mm-hmm. First, there were files, and she's going to release them, and we're going to
like 10,000.
Justice.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to get these sumbitches. Then there's no files.
Yep.
She's looking at these files. She sees Trump in there, or she sees something, his involvement somehow.
Something very damning to go to all these links to keep them from coming out.
And still, I mean, do you ever think like one day somebody like Pam Bondi is going to go, I can't look at myself in the mirror anymore? Like, how do they sleep at night? Are they on these mattresses?
They think that because they have attained a certain level of power, that they truly have power. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is a prime example of what I was talking about. If a woman was to go home and tell her husband that I'm going to vote Democrat, or the ICE agents have gotten crazy. She's a prime example of what happens to a Republican woman when they buck the system. We all saw how Donald Trump lashed out at her and she became the enemy, and it was this constant attacks. So Pam Bondi doesn't want that. She thinks she has some sort of power there. But women, as long as the patriarchy is in place, you will never obtain the level of power that a man has. And so Pam Bondi might think she has some power.
So we're talking about personal security and social protection.
Yes, and even she at that level is self-protecting from Donald Trump. She saw what he did to Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has watched what he's done. She has been the one to go after his political enemies. She knows what's on the receiving end of it. She doesn't want that.
You know what's sad is I heard this on the news the other day that Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, like there's just all these, there's I guess maybe several MAGA candidates that are trying to fill her position. But it just seems like, man, that's an interesting community to kind of dive into. Like, she denounces MAGA.
But she's still very Republican. She's still very divisive. She's still very MAGA-like. She still has those personality traits. She still has those mindsets. I don't give a shit if she all of a sudden doesn't like Donald Trump and the Epstein files were her thing, her reason for turning. She still is who she was that helped get Donald Trump in office.
Well, you could tell that during the 60 Minutes article or interview where they were trying to get her to...
Zero accountability.
Yeah. No,
zero.
Just got very defensive.
Not me. Yes, you. You helped this happen. And until she can take some sort of accountability, I'm not one of those people that's like, yeah, MTG. She can go to hell.
Yeah.
Let's just...
Well, what about Caroline Leavitt? What are your thoughts on her? She's a very independent, outspoken, not Sigma. Is she Alpha?
So I did a video where I talked about her one time, and the exact phrase I used was male-centered.
Ooh.
Yes.
So you're not afraid of this?
No, I'm not afraid of any word. They're just letters. They're just sounds. I actually had somebody tell me one time I shouldn't use the word goddamn, and I was like, it's just words. It's letters making a sound with my mouth. You cannot police my language. That's ridiculous.
Well, what do you mean by male-centered? I'm not allowed to say that word in my house. If I do, I'm in deep shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there are no rules as far as language goes for me. Here's the thing. I have compassion for these women. I do. Do I also get angry and want to rage and call them names, watching them support the patriarchy and encourage the oppression of other women and marginalized groups? Also, yes. It doesn't mean I don't feel sorry for them. When I say male-centered, she is supporting her own abuse. She is supporting a man like Donald Trump, you know what I mean? She's upholding him and, trying to filter through his lies and lie for him. And it's appalling.
Have you ever thought about how these people are all connected? Like Pam Bondi has known Donald Trump since she was very, very young.
There's a definite connection.
Caroline Leavitt, I don't
Erica
know Kirk.
Her.
I mean, there's like all these people are like really connected in some way.
I don't know the connections. I've not gone down that rabbit hole. I know that Pam Bondi and Trump, as well as other people on the DOJ, like some were his attorneys at some point.
Yeah.
Some have been his loyal supporters for a long time. I mean, he's built a cabinet of loyalists.
Yeah.
Period. There's no one in that cabinet to hold him accountable for anything. That's why you see these women coming out in support and justifying his behaviors and lying for him. Like I said, I feel sorry for those women because they think they have some sort of power. But the moment they betray him in any way, he will eat them alive.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that baffles me. Is he's proven that when you stop being useful to him, you lose your value.
Well, people think they're invincible. That's actually a psychological trait that people think, oh, it won't happen to me.
Yeah.
It won't happen to me. I mean, and that it goes down to just everyday things, people not wearing their seatbelt. What? I'm fine. It won't happen to me, Even at that level, it won't happen to them. And maybe because they know they would never, betray him. whatever. I don't know.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, don't forget you can find all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button, and we would love a review. Okay, now back to the episode.
I love the psychology aspect of this episode, how we've kind of dove into that. It's fascinating. Where do you get your news from?
I subscribe to some emails. I get it from 1440 News. It's like I don't think it comes out daily, but it's a non-biased news source, although nothing can really be non-biased because we have humans involved.
Yeah.
So it's as non-biased as I've found. I also like NPR, AP News, Reuters, BBC. I was a fan of BBC,
Until this hiccup.
yeah. So that's changed a little bit because they started censoring. But those are and New York Times. I subscribe to the New York Times.
Yeah, so that's great advice if any MAGAs. I've got a really good friend who is MAGA, and I'm just like, AP is something I'm constantly bringing up to him. I'm like, go to an outlet like that.
Yes.
You know,
because when you read, and it's a very clear, definitive difference between reading one of those articles from AP News or NPR versus something that you would see on like 1819 News or Fox News. For the most part, like I said, you cannot ever completely erase all bias.
right.
But for the most part, when you read the article, you're generally just going to see factual statements, no opinions, no additional commentary, no add-in type stuff. It's just, and the articles are usually much shorter because they're just stating the facts. Whereas you get over here and you get all kind of misleading, I don't even know what to call that word salad.
Well, it's like a lot of like you were talking about the memes they believe. Like the craziest thing is that a Russian bot or somebody in Iran, somebody that's trying to stoke division probably created that.
It is baffling to me how these people aren't just exhausted from walking around every day with so much hate in them. So much animosity for the others. You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy to just go through your life not giving a shit what everybody else is doing, as far as like if they're gay or if whatever, just letting people be. You know what I mean? That is so much easier than navigating every day looking for news sources that encourage your hate. And I don't know how they're all still going because I'm exhausted just from seeing it.
Yeah.
But to perpetrate it and just be so anti-everyone except for white people and capitalists. They love the billionaires, even though they're never going to be one.
Yeah. They've been indoctrinated to think that they have a chance.
Yeah, and they don't. They're never going to be a billionaire. I'm never going to be a billionaire. We're not enemies, okay? This is a class situation, and you are unaware of that.
Yeah, that's something that Dr. Boyd and I talked about a lot too, about how it's not left or right, it's top and bottom.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
that's what's crazy.
But they have allowed themselves to be so manipulated that it's not top to bottom. It's them against gay people. It's them against trans people. It's them against black people. It's them against immigrants. It's them against blue-haired liberals. And really none of us are billionaires. You're not a billionaire. We're not the enemies. But they've allowed themselves to think that we are.
All right, it's closing question time. I've got 3 closing questions for you.
I'm scared.
That's how close you are to the finish line.
All I do is win.
If you could speak directly to a Southern white woman who votes Republican but feels politically exhausted or unheard, what would that advice be? What would you say to them?
Educate yourself.
Would you want to just shake the shit out of them?
I mean, naturally, yes, but that doesn't change people.
Yeah.
attacking people, calling people names. Again, I go back to the compassion and empathy. I do have it for them. I really do, because I remember I don't forget where I came from. There was a brief period when I was in that world too. And I know how easy it is to be manipulated and indoctrinated and made to feel like you have to comply. So I don't, that's not lost on me. I do empathize with them, but it saddens me that they submit so easily when all they have to do is educate themselves, get out of the box, go back to their natural nurturing instincts for people, and stop letting men dictate their lives for them. Like, use your voice, stand up for yourself, be your own advocate. Not only are you not representing yourself in your daily life, but you're electing men who are not going to go out here and represent you either. At some point, you have to advocate for you. So I just encourage them to fight back. Don't be just a doormat. We're not meant for that. We're meant for so much more, and they prove it every day in their daily lives when they run the show. I wish they would do it in other areas of their life.
Well, we've got some really powerful Democratic candidates from, governor all the way down.
We absolutely do.
It is a really talented, stacked bench. And I hope these people, if they have an opportunity to go to a debate or something, that they start tuning in, because these people could really change Alabama, I feel like.
Absolutely. It would change the state. It would change their daily life. Like, that's one thing. I'm glad you touched on that. I know that they have been programmed that we have to vote Republican. You have to vote Republican. You actually don't. You actually don't. You actually could go in that booth and vote for whoever you wanted to. You have that freedom. So take time to look into these candidates, because I promise you, these Democratic candidates that have signed up to fight for Alabama and fight for the people of Alabama actually have your best interest at heart. They're not looking to hold on to power. They're not looking to make money. They genuinely want the lives of Alabama citizens to be better. So I strongly encourage everybody, but speaking, to white women, to please look into all of these Democratic candidates. Don't let these labels deter you from voting for your interest.
Well, and they're going to pay a price for it too. My favorite thing that you've said during this podcast is that, you legitimately can't be a free person in this state.
No.
So I know a few of these Democratic candidates that have already, lost relationships, or, there's something that has happened to them, their livelihood, or, somebody that they thought for like the last 10 years was their bestie just vanish as soon as they were like, I'm gonna run.
You're not allowed, because of the culture here and because of these societal standards that Alabama has, you're not allowed to be a free thinker. You're not allowed to dictate your own path. You're not allowed to be an atheist. You're not allowed to be a Democrat or a left-leaning person. You must adhere to these social rules to be considered valuable. And that is asinine. Like, we all come from different backgrounds, different experiences, different environments, different upbringings. Like, we all have different things that make us who we are, and every human being is valuable just because they're human. So this idea that I can't be different, or I can't forge my own path, and I can't vote the way I deem to be right without social punishment is crazy.
Well, it reminds me, like when Fox News is talking about Renee Good, they continually, they lead with the fact she's a lesbian.
Yeah. Because you got to attack the person.
Yeah.
You know,
They're justifying her death.
yeah. Oh God, that's been just something that's been awful. But then to have them, that has left me speechless, honestly, how they've tried to justify a woman being shot in the face in the middle of a street in America.
Well, if she wasn't protesting,
Which is a right, a constitutional right.
she shouldn't have been there.
Oh, you mean like women that are raped? They shouldn't have been there? They shouldn't have
worn that outfit?
Yeah. It's always victim blaming. It's always shifting the blame onto the victim. And usually it's a woman. So how women continue to support that is beyond me.
All right. So let's get these two final questions are, go ahead and give them both to you, and then you decide which one you want to take on first. But I want to know, honestly, where do you think this country is going? Like, how is this going to end? Are we going to go, will I lose my podcast in the next few years? Will I be persecuted? How bad is this going to get?
My gut tells me that it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I don't think the end of America is here. I don't think that democracy will fall. I don't think that the people, we see how people are fighting back right now. And I think that's going to escalate as well. So I don't think this is the end for us. And I don't think we're just going to be under an authoritarian regime for the next 40 years. You know what I mean? I do believe we're going to come out of this. And I think the midterms are a key point to protect democracy. We have to flip these seats and these states so that we've got people in these offices that are actually going to change things. Because we see these Democrats that are sitting in the offices right now, they did nothing to prevent us from getting here. They're responsible, partly. So if we want to have a shot in hell, we've got to vote like we care.
Well, and something just kind of crossed my mind. It's like, I was wondering, do you wish we would go back to a time where do you miss the time we didn't talk about politics? Like it was a no-no?
I miss when I just was thinking about going to play golf this Saturday. I miss when I could just sit on my back porch and listen to birds and not think about elections. Like it being my all-consuming. I miss when I was just at home spending time with my husband talking about this show we watched last night. I miss just living without feeling like if we don't act, we're going to lose our country. Yeah, I miss politics not being to the point where they're at now, like it's detrimental if we don't pay attention, if we don't focus on every little thing that's going on. But do I miss being indifferent to politics and not caring about politics? No, I don't. I want to be an aware, enlightened person so that I vote smartly for my own interest and those of the people that I care about. I miss peace in this country. I miss people at least acting like they were kind, And my husband and I had this conversation last night. He said, I used to think that most people were good, just overall. He said, I don't think that anymore. And I'm like, well, I've told you before that I don't think people are born inherently good or bad. Life determines, along with genetics, but I don't think most people are good anymore either. I said, but I do still believe there are a lot of good people out there. I know, because I'm one of them, I'm a good person. But I guess I miss thinking that most people were good and that life was peaceful. So,
what gives you hope? Is it that more and more people are starting to speak out, more and more people are starting to take a stand?
That does, but and this, some people might find this odd given the fact that I just said I don't think most people are good like I used to, but my hope comes from humanity because I know that people make change. I don't believe in anything external is going to fix everything. Just like, think about the civil rights movement. It took people standing up and fighting against systems of oppression and abuse and all that stuff to make change. And I just believe that there will be enough people to resist this and to stop it. Well, I have hope in humanity because if you look back in history, it's been people to change things and make things better for people. Now, we're nowhere near, even prior to Trump, we were nowhere near where we needed to be as a country, but we were on the right track. And he set us back so far. But it's been people, and my hope is in humanity that we're going to come through. We will prevail.
I hope you are right.
Me too. Shit. I'm going down with the ship.
Yeah, you're not moving to Ireland or
No.
Paris or anything?
Nope, I'm here. I'm rooted. When people tell me that I should leave Alabama because of my views and stuff, it makes me live here harder, okay?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going anywhere. I deserve to be here as much as anybody else.
Love it so much. Thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you.
this. Thank you for making the drive, making the time, being such a great guest. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to encourage everybody to follow Leisha on TikTok at Alabama Disgrace. Any final thoughts, words, wisdom? You really left it all out on the table. I don't know if you got
Yeah,
anything
we've talked
left.
about a lot. I strongly encourage you to go to Dr. Will Boyd's website, learn about him, look at his platform. He's an amazing leader, person, human, candidate, and he'd be so good for the state of Alabama. So I just want to leave you with that because Alabama deserves better than what we have right now. And it ain't Tommy Tuberville. I can't help it.
Well, that's a whole nother show. Gosh, I'd love to have you back on again too, because we haven't talked about the environment, just so many things. But
Lots of things.
Yeah, but thank you so much for doing
Thank
this. This has
you.
been awesome.
Been fun.
Politics of fear and hate are wrong. We love you and politics of compassion
America,
and love are right.
we